The weak believe sales is manipulation. The powerful understand sales is control. This misunderstanding is not accidental. It comforts those who lack leverage. By calling sales dirty, they excuse their inability to command outcomes. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. People moralize what they cannot master. Sales is not the art of convincing equals. It is the science of hierarchy. When sales feels uncomfortable, it is not because the act itself is wrong. It is because the seller stands beneath the buyer seeking approval instead of asserting position. No one respects a man who asks permission to lead a transaction. Rejection does not wound because it is painful. It wounds because it exposes powerlessness. Every hesitation, every unnecessary explanation, every premature discount is a confession. You are admitting uncertainty, and uncertainty invites resistance. Humans are not rational first. They are territorial. They sense weakness long before they process logic. The central lie is this. Selling is about persuasion. Persuasion is what one uses when authority is absent. True selling is positioning yourself as the inevitable option. This is why aggressive sellers fail. Aggression is not strength, it is noise. Machiavelli warned that rulers who rely on force reveal their instability. The same applies here. The seller who pressures, rushes, or begs signals desperation. Desperation repels. Power speaks calmly. A seller in control does not chase the deal. He structures the environment so that the deal moves toward him. He assumes value. He does not prove it. Proof is for courts, not for dominance. This is also why selling what you secretly doubt is fatal. Doubt fractures authority. The body betrays the mind, tone weakens, words soften, confidence collapses into negotiation. The buyer does not consciously analyze this. They feel it and they withdraw. Price is never the true objection. Authority is. Machiavelli understood that legitimacy precedes obedience. A ruler who questions his right to rule invites rebellion. A seller who questions his offer invites rejection. Authority must be felt before it is explained. Another illusion keeps the weak trapped. The belief that people buy logically. They do not. Logic is a justification, not a cause. Decisions are made emotionally, then defended with reason. No one buys a car for transportation. They buy status. Dignity, relief from shame. No one buys fitness for health. They buy escape from self-disgust. No one buys education for knowledge. They buy leverage. The seller who leads with features speaks like a clerk. The seller who leads with identity speaks like a ruler. Selling is not about talking more. It is about exposing the cost of inaction. What remains broken if the buyer does nothing? What humiliation continues? What limitation persists until this is made undeniable? No sale is justified. This is where fear disappears, because fear only exists when you need approval. Another comforting lie must be destroyed. Rejection means failure. Rejection simply reveals misalignment of power or timing. The elite seller does not seek universal acceptance. He selects, he qualifies, he discards. Scarcity is not a tactic, it is a consequence of independence. If you need the deal, the buyer owns you. If you can lose the deal, you control the frame. Most people sell like servants hoping to be chosen. Those who sell anything operate as gatekeepers, deciding who is allowed access to the outcome. They are not asking, will you buy? They are asking, are you capable of using this? This inversion is everything. Sales ceases to be extraction and becomes filtration. Money is not taken, it is redirected. The buyer does not feel conquered. They feel chosen. And when you hold this position calm, immovable, indifferent to outcome, the final reversal occurs. The buyer begins justifying the purchase to themselves. They argue for the deal. They convince themselves. That is power. Sales is not manipulation. It is command of context. Until you understand this, every script, every technique, every tactic will collapse under pressure. In the next part, we will confront the flaw that destroys more deals than price or competition combined. The fact that most people are not sold on themselves, and power never flows through a man who doubts his own authority. Principle 1. Never sell what you do not believe in. Power cannot flow through a divided mind. A man who doubts his own offering cannot command belief from others. This is not philosophy. It is mechanics. The most common mistake in sales is not poor technique, weak scripts, or lack of charisma. It is internal disbelief, and disbelief is fatal. Machiavelli would call it illegitimacy. A ruler who questions his own right to rule invites conspiracy. A seller who questions his product invites resistance. People like to say, I just need better closing skills. What they need is alignment. Selling something you do not believe in forces you into contradiction. You speak one truth outwardly while holding another inwardly. The buyer feels this fracture instantly. Humans are predators of inconsistency. They trust coherence and punish hesitation. This is why sales feels gross to so many people. Not because selling is immoral, but because they are trying to extract value from something they themselves would not proudly buy. Their conscience rebels and their body follows. Voice tightens. Language softens. Authority dissolves into negotiation. A man selling luxury does not apologize. A man selling scarcity does not beg. Only the unsure explain themselves. If you secretly think your product is overpriced, mediocre, or easily replaceable, you will behave like it is. No training can override this. No script can mask it for long. Belief is the foundation of dominance. Without it, everything collapses. Understand this clearly. People do not buy products. They buy certainty. They buy the calm confidence of someone who knows the outcome will be better with than without them. That certainty cannot be faked. It must be earned internally. Machiavelli warned that rulers who rely on deception rather than strength eventually lose both. The same applies here. You can lie to customers for a time, but you cannot lie to your own nervous system. It will betray you in posture, timing, and tone. This leads to a ruthless conclusion most are unwilling to accept. If you do not believe in what you sell, leave. Do not push through it. Do not fake it until you make it. Do not hope motivation will arrive later. Those are the strategies of servants, not rulers. If the product does not improve the buyer's position in a way you respect, walk away. Find a better product, create one, or change the market you serve. Power comes from standing behind something you would defend without hesitation. Once belief is present, selling changes form entirely. You stop seeking approval. You stop explaining. You stop discounting. You begin guiding. The conversation shifts from will this work to how fast do you want the result. This is why elite sellers appear relaxed. They are not attached to the outcome. They know the product works. They know not everyone qualifies. They are indifferent to rejection because rejection does not threaten their identity. Indifference is strength. When you are sold on your product, you no longer feel like you are taking money. You feel like you are redirecting it away from stagnation, away from excuses, toward leverage, status, or relief. That is why guilt disappears. Guilt only exists when you believe the exchange is unfair. Belief also creates selectivity. You stop trying to sell everyone. You qualify harder. You disqualify faster. This alone increases your power. Scarcity is not created by tactics. It is created by standards. A seller without standards is replaceable. A seller with standards becomes a gatekeeper. This is the first principle because it cannot be bypassed. Every great salesman, ruler, or strategist in history understood this law intuitively. Authority flows from conviction. The market does not reward effort, it rewards coherence. If you believe, others follow. If you hesitate, they resist. Principle 2. Before you sell others, you must sell yourself. A man who does not believe in himself cannot command belief from anyone else. This is not motivational language. It is structural reality. Power does not pass through doubt. It leaks. Most people fail in sales not because their product is weak, but because they are internally illegitimate. They ask others to commit, invest and act while privately knowing they themselves do not live by the standards they demand. This hypocrisy is felt immediately, not logically, instinctively. Machiavelli warned that rulers who cannot govern themselves will never govern others. Self-rule precedes authority. If you cannot keep promises to yourself, your words carry no weight. The market senses this faster than any human court. The common delusion is that confidence comes from results. In truth, results come from self-trust. Self-trust is built through discipline, not affirmations. Every time you lie to yourself by delaying, quitting early, lowering standards, you weaken your internal authority. And when internal authority collapses, external authority disappears with it. This is why some people know the right words but cannot sell. Their language is correct but their presence is hollow. Buyers do not respond to language. They respond to alignment. When a man stands behind his words with his life, his posture and his habits, people feel safe following him. When he does not, they resist. Selling yourself does not mean arrogance, it means credibility. You must know without debate why you are trustworthy. Not because of titles, credentials, or charm, but because you do what you say you will do. Consistency is the quiet source of power. Machiavelli wrote that reputation is built through repeated action, not declared virtue. The same applies here. You do not convince yourself with speeches. You convince yourself by waking up when you said you would, training when it is inconvenient, preparing when no one is watching. These acts are invisible to others, but they shape everything others perceive. Once you are sold on yourself, rejection loses its sting. You stop seeking validation because your worth is no longer negotiated externally. A man who trusts himself does not collapse when someone says no. He adjusts or moves on. This shift is dangerous in the best way. You stop accepting weak prospects. You stop chasing people who hesitate. You stop shrinking your offer to be liked. You begin holding others to your standard instead of lowering yourself to theirs. The market respects this immediately. People follow those who live as proof of their message. They invest in those who embody outcomes, not those who merely describe them. If you want others to bet on themselves, they must first see that you have already done so. This is why selling yourself is the second principle. Without it, belief in the product erodes over time. With it, even an average offer gains weight. Authority compounds. Principle 3. People do not buy products, they buy escape. The weak seller explains features. The powerful seller exposes consequences. This is the difference between clerks and strategists. No one wakes up wanting a product. They wake up wanting relief from shame, from limitation, from stagnation, from the quiet fear that their life is not improving. Products are rational objects. Buying is an emotional decision. Those who confuse the two sell slowly, if at all. Here is the common illusion. If I explain what it does, they will understand its value. This is false. Understanding does not move people. Urgency does. An urgency is created by pain, not information. Machiavelli understood that people move faster away from danger than toward pleasure. The same law governs markets. A buyer acts when the cost of doing nothing becomes heavier than the cost of change. Your role is not to decorate the solution. It is to clarify the trap they are already in. No one buys transportation. They buy dignity. No one buys weight loss. They buy the end of self-disgust. No one buys education. They buy leverage over a future that currently controls them. The product is merely the vehicle. The destination is psychological freedom. This is why elite sellers ask questions instead of pitching. Questions are weapons. They force the buyer to confront what they have been avoiding. How long has this been a problem? What has it cost you so far? What happens if nothing changes in a year? Each question tightens the frame. Each answer sharpens the pain. The weak fear these questions because they think discomfort will scare the buyer away. In reality, discomfort clarifies. People are already uncomfortable. You are simply removing the illusion that ignoring the problem is harmless. Do not misunderstand this as empathy theater. This is not about being nice. It is about being precise. Precision creates authority. When you name a buyer's problem more clearly than they can, you temporarily control the narrative. And whoever controls the narrative controls the decision. Another lie must be destroyed. People know what they need. Most do not. They feel symptoms, not causes. They blame surface issues while remaining loyal to the habits that created them. The seller's true function is diagnostic, not persuasive. You diagnose the real constraint, then present the exit. This is why demonstrations outperform explanations. Seeing consequences collapse time. When the buyer feels the outcome, whether relief, confidence, or status, the decision is already made. Words only justify it. The seller who focuses on features fights comparisons. The seller who focuses on escape eliminates them. When the buyer believes you uniquely understand their situation, price becomes secondary. Competition fades. Delay feels dangerous. Do not sell hope. Hope is weak. Sell inevitability. Make it clear that change will happen with or without you and that the only variable is whether they will control it or be controlled by it. This is not pressure. It is truth framed correctly. Notice what happens when you do this well. The buyer stops asking about discounts and starts asking about timing. They stop negotiating value and start negotiating speed. This is the signal that you have shifted the frame from "do I want this" to "how soon can I escape?" This principle is non-negotiable. Without it, you are selling objects in a market flooded with objects. With it, you are selling exits in a world full of trapped people. Power follows those who provide exits. Principle 4. Do not persuade. Stand where the money stands, the weak persuade. The powerful decide. Persuasion is the behavior of those who lack authority and must compensate with effort. Machiavelli warned that force reveals fragility. The same is true of persuasion. When you try too hard to convince, you announce that the decision is not already obvious. Here is the lie that traps most sellers. I must get them to understand. No, understanding is not the problem. Courage is. People know far more than they act on. What they lack is the willingness to confront the cost of staying the same. Your role is not to argue with the buyer. It is to occupy the position their money wants to be in. Money is not neutral. It seeks leverage. It flows toward outcomes, not explanations. When a buyer hesitates, it is not because they need more information. It is because their fear of change is louder than their desire for progress. If you argue, you side with their fear. If you reposition, you overpower it. To do this, you must adopt a ruthless frame. The buyer's money is currently misallocated. It is sitting in comfort, distraction, or delay. Places that do not produce growth. Your offer is not an expense. It is a reassignment of resources. When you believe this, persuasion disappears. You are no longer asking them to buy. You are guiding their capital toward its highest use. This is why elite sellers sound calm when discussing price. They do not justify it. They contextualize it. They compare the investment not to alternatives but to the ongoing cost of inaction. Time wasted, confidence eroded, opportunity lost. Compared to these, the price becomes small. Machiavelli wrote that the ruler who appears unsure invites rebellion. The seller who negotiates against himself invites delay. Do not lower the price before it is challenged. Do not apologize for value. Apologies signal guilt, and guilt repels power. Another illusion must be destroyed. That empathy requires softness. True empathy is firmness. It is the willingness to say, if you do not change this, nothing will change for you. The weak call this pressure. The wise call it responsibility. Standing where the money stands means you see the buyer's future more clearly than they do. It means you are willing to hold the uncomfortable truth when they retreat into excuses. You do not chase them, you wait. Silence becomes leverage. When done correctly, something shifts. The buyer stops defending their hesitation and starts questioning it. Their internal dialogue turns against delay. They begin justifying the investment to themselves. At that moment, the sale is already decided. Notice that no persuasion occurred, no emotional pleading, no manipulation, only reframing reality. This is why aggression is unnecessary. Aggression is the language of insecurity. Authority does not need volume. It needs alignment. When your belief in the outcome is stronger than the buyer's fear, control naturally transfers to you. This principle separates sellers who close occasionally from those who sell anything. The former chase agreement. The latter redirect momentum. Money follows momentum. Principle 5. No is not rejection. It is incomplete awareness. The weak hear no and retreat. The powerful hear no and diagnose. Rejection only feels personal to those who are still seeking approval. In reality, a no is rarely a verdict. It is a signal. It means the frame is unfinished. The value is incomplete, or the consequences of inaction have not yet been made unavoidable. Most sellers collapse at the first refusal because they misunderstand what is happening. They think the buyer has evaluated the offer and decided against it. This is almost never true. People do not reject what they fully understand. They reject what feels uncertain, abstract, or risky. Machiavelli understood that resistance emerges where clarity is missing. Subjects rebel when the ruler's intent is unclear. Buyers hesitate when the outcome is foggy. Confusion breeds delay. Here is the critical distinction. You are not being rejected. The product is not even being rejected. Ignorance is protecting itself. When someone says, "I need to think about it," they are not thinking. They are avoiding. When they say, "It's not the right time," time is not the issue. Courage is. The seller who argues against these statements loses. The seller who investigates them wins. The correct response to no is not persuasion. It is revelation. What does the buyer not yet see? Is it the mechanism of change, the speed of results, the cost of waiting, or the certainty that others like them have succeeded? Until this missing piece is exposed, refusal is rational. This is why demonstrations outperform explanations. Seeing compresses belief, a wrinkle disappearing, a result materializing, a system working in real time. These remove doubt faster than words ever could. Words ask for trust. Evidence commands it. The weak fear rejection because they tie it to identity. The powerful separate themselves entirely. They understand that selling is mechanical. Frames are built. Information is sequenced. Outcomes follow. Machiavelli warned against reacting emotionally to resistance. Emotion clouds judgment. A seller who takes no personally shortens the process by abandoning it. A seller who remains calm extends the frame until the buyer either sees clearly or disqualifies themselves. This is why elite sellers are patient. Patience is not passivity. It is confidence that time favors those with leverage. They do not rush to close. They allow the buyer to confront their own hesitation. There is another uncomfortable truth. Many buyers say no because they do not trust themselves. They fear committing and failing. Your role is not to comfort that fear but to neutralize it. By showing them the structure, the support and the path, you remove uncertainty from the decision. Once awareness is complete, resistance collapses. The buyer does not feel convinced. They feel relieved. The decision stops feeling risky and starts feeling overdue. And sometimes even after clarity the answer remains no. This does not weaken your position, it strengthens it. Disqualification preserves authority. Power is maintained by refusing misaligned deals as much as by closing aligned ones. Understand this principle and rejection loses its threat. No becomes information, not insult. Data, not defeat. Principle 6. Everything you want lies behind a yes. The powerless wait to be chosen. The powerful ask and structure the moment so that saying yes becomes inevitable. Most people believe opportunity is discovered. It is not. Opportunity is granted, and it is granted to those who know how to move others to agreement. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. Power does not reward virtue. It rewards those who act. Here is the lie that keeps people subordinate. If it's meant for me, it will happen. Nothing significant happens without a decision. And every decision requires a yes. If you cannot ask for it or guide someone to it, you will live inside the outcomes chosen by others. Life itself is a series of sales. You sell where you live, who you marry, how you spend your time, what you tolerate, what you refuse. Those who fail to sell their direction are sold on someone else's. The mistake sellers make is believing the yes belongs to the buyer alone. It does not. The yes is constructed. It is the result of context, clarity, and confidence applied in sequence. When people hesitate, it is rarely because they lack desire. It is because they lack certainty. Your task is not to pressure them into agreement. It is to remove every excuse for delay. Machiavelli warned that indecision is more dangerous than error. In sales, hesitation is the enemy, not because it blocks the deal, but because it preserves stagnation. The seller who allows endless contemplation becomes complicit in the buyer's inaction. To sell anything, you must understand this law. People move when someone else holds the vision more firmly than they do. When you believe in the destination more than they believe in their fear, authority transfers. This is why elite sellers speak in outcomes, not options. They do not ask, "What do you want to do?" They ask, "Do you want to start now or after the deadline?" This is not manipulation. It is leadership. Leaders do not present chaos. They present paths. Another illusion must be destroyed. Asking for the yes is uncomfortable. It is only uncomfortable when you doubt the value of the outcome. When you know the destination improves their position, asking becomes a responsibility, not a risk. Those who fear asking fear judgment, but judgment is the tax paid by those who act. The greater danger is invisibility. No one is rewarded for restraint. Notice something critical. The yes is never just about the product. It is about identity. Saying yes means accepting a new self. More capable, more exposed, more accountable. Many resist not because they cannot afford the investment, but because they fear the version of themselves that follows. This is why weak sellers stop at logic. Strong sellers address identity. They frame the yes as alignment with who the buyer already wants to become. When identity is engaged, resistance fades. And when the yes is spoken, momentum begins. Momentum compounds. One decision creates leverage for the next. Those who habitually say yes to the right things accumulate power quietly, while those who delay remain governed by circumstance. Understand this principle and you stop waiting, you stop hoping, you stop negotiating with fate. You begin directing it. Principle 7. The rich practice, the poor hope. Hope is the religion of the powerless. Practice is the discipline of those who intend to win. Most people admire talent because it absolves them of responsibility. If success is a gift, failure is not their fault. Machiavelli would dismiss this illusion immediately. Power is never accidental. It is engineered through repetition. Selling is not an art reserved for the gifted. It is a mechanical skill. And like all mechanical skills, it is sharpened through deliberate use. Those who wait to feel ready remain spectators. Those who train become inevitable. The poor believe motivation precedes action. The rich know action precedes confidence. This is why one group dreams and the other compounds. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Every conversation is a training ground. Those who sell anything understand this. They rehearse intent before speaking. They decide outcomes in advance. They treat objections as drills, not threats. The weak say, "I don't want to practice on people." The powerful practice on everything, on conversations, negotiations, even trivial decisions. They turn daily interactions into simulations. Where to eat, what to prioritize, what to refuse. Each choice strengthens authority. Machiavelli warned that armies lose not in battle but in neglect during peace. Sellers fail for the same reason. They wait for the moment that matters, then collapse under pressure. Those who train daily remain calm when stakes rise. Practice removes fear because fear thrives in uncertainty. Repetition replaces uncertainty with pattern recognition. Once you have seen resistance 100 times, it no longer intimidates. It becomes familiar, predictable, controllable. This is why elite sellers are unshaken by objections. They have answered them before thousands of times. Not theoretically, but in motion. Confidence is not bravado. It is memory. Another illusion must be destroyed. Training must be long and dramatic to be effective. It does not. 15 minutes daily outweighs hours of irregular effort. Consistency builds dominance. Intensity without discipline builds nothing. Those who practice understand that mistakes are currency. Each failure refines judgment. Each misstep sharpens timing. Those who avoid practice also avoid growth, and stagnation quietly becomes identity. The poor hope for better circumstances. The rich prepare regardless of circumstances. Hope waits for opportunity. Practice creates it. This is why sales skill compounds beyond money. The one who can direct decisions controls outcomes across every domain: career, relationships, power. Training is not optional. It is the price of authority. Principle 8. Know when to be silent. The weak talk to feel safe. The powerful fall silent to take control. Most deals are not lost because of a bad offer, weak timing, or strong competition. They are lost because the seller cannot tolerate silence. He fills the gap with explanations, discounts, reassurances. each one eroding authority. Machiavelli warned that those who speak too much reveal their insecurity. The same law governs sales. Silence is not absence. It is pressure. When a buyer has heard enough to decide, additional words do not add value, they introduce doubt. Over-explaining shifts the frame from leadership to justification. Justification belongs to the accused, not the authority. Here is the common misunderstanding. More information creates more certainty. In reality, information beyond the decision point creates confusion. People do not want every detail. They want resolution. The disciplined seller watches for signals. The moment the buyer begins asking about logistics, timing, or implementation, the decision has already moved internally. At that point, talking becomes sabotage. Machiavelli understood that power often lies in restraint. A ruler who reacts to every provocation appears unstable. A seller who responds to every hesitation appears uncertain. Silence communicates confidence in the outcome. The most dangerous moment in any sale is right after momentum appears. This is when the weak celebrate, verbally restating value, repeating benefits. Overselling. The powerful ask one question and stop. Have you heard enough to make a decision? This question does not push, it clarifies. It forces the buyer to confront their own readiness. If the answer is no, you continue. If the answer is yes, you close. Either way, silence regains control. Silence also exposes resistance faster than argument. When you stop speaking, the buyer fills the space with truth. Objections surface, hesitations appear. The seller who listens gains leverage. The one who talks loses it. There is another function of silence. It protects scarcity. Excess words cheapen value. When you say less, each sentence carries weight. The buyer leans in instead of tuning out. Attention follows restraint. The poor fear silence because they fear losing control. In reality, silence is control. It signals that you do not need the deal to survive. That indifference is felt immediately. Machiavelli taught that appearing self-sufficient is essential to authority. Silence is the modern form of that signal. When used correctly, silence shifts the burden of action to the buyer. They must speak. They must decide. You have already framed the path. Their words determine the next move. Master this principle and you stop selling with noise. You begin selling with presence. And presence, when calm and deliberate, closes more deals than persuasion ever will. Principle 9. No single mistake kills a deal. The weak fear mistakes. The powerful assume recovery. Most people sell as if the transaction is fragile. One wrong word, one awkward pause, one imperfect moment, and everything collapses. This belief keeps them tense, reactive, and cautious. Machiavelli would dismiss this immediately. Power is not fragile. Deals do not die because of mistakes. They die because of panic. A mistake reveals humanity. Panic reveals weakness. Buyers forgive errors far more easily than they forgive insecurity. When a seller fumbles and then regains composure, authority increases. When he fumbles and collapses, trust disappears. Here is the illusion that paralyzes sellers. I've blown it. Rarely true. People change their minds constantly. They are not the same person they were an hour ago, a day ago, or even 5 minutes ago. Decisions evolve, timing shifts, new pressures emerge. Machiavelli understood that rulers survive errors by controlling the narrative afterward. The same applies here. What matters is not the mistake itself, but how quickly and calmly control is reasserted. Names are forgotten. Demos go poorly. Questions are answered imperfectly. None of these end a deal. The seller who remains steady signals resilience. Resilience creates confidence. The weak apologize excessively. Apologies invite judgment. The powerful correct and proceed. They do not dwell. They do not explain. They move forward as if the outcome remains unchanged because often it does. Another lie must be destroyed. Pressure ruins relationships. Pressure handled poorly ruins relationships. Pressure applied with conviction accelerates decisions. Even when pressure misfires, recovery remains possible. Consider how buyers behave in their own lives. They walk away from an offer today, then return tomorrow when circumstances change. They reject a product, then buy it later when urgency appears. Human behavior is fluid. The seller who understands this never treats a loss as final. This is why elite sellers detach emotionally from each interaction. Detachment is not indifference, it is perspective. They know the game is long. One conversation does not define a career. One misstep does not define a deal. Fear of mistakes shrinks presence. Shrunk presence invites resistance. Confidence even after error restores control. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors those bold enough to act and stable enough to endure misfortune. Sales rewards the same temperament. Act decisively, recover instantly. Continue without hesitation. When you internalize this principle, anxiety disappears. You stop walking on verbal glass, you stop rehearsing perfection. You speak freely, listen deeply, and adjust in real time. This freedom is dangerous. It makes you adaptable. It makes you unshaken. And in markets where most freeze under pressure, adaptability wins. Conclusion. The one who sells well always stands above. Power is not taken by force. It is accepted through structure. The weak believe selling is about tactics. The strong understand it is about position. When position is correct, techniques become unnecessary. When position is weak, no technique can save you. Those who sell well are not louder, faster, or more charismatic. They are calmer, more selective, more willing to walk away. They do not chase agreement. They shape it. They do not beg for trust. They radiate legitimacy. Machiavelli taught that authority must appear natural. The same is true in sales. When you believe deeply in what you offer. When you govern yourself before attempting to govern others. When you expose problems instead of decorating solutions. When you stand where the money should stand. Rejection loses its sting. Silence becomes leverage. Mistakes become recoverable. Fear disappears. At that point, selling stops feeling like work. It becomes alignment. You are no longer extracting value. You are directing it. Money flows toward clarity, certainty, and conviction. Always has, always will. This is why the best sellers are rarely desperate. Desperation is a symptom of misalignment. The seller who can lose the deal controls the frame. The seller who needs the deal surrenders it. Selling anything is not about domination over others. It is about dominance over chaos. You reduce confusion, you remove hesitation, you collapse time between desire and decision. In doing so, you assume responsibility, something most avoid. Responsibility is heavy. That is why few pursue it. But responsibility is also power. Those willing to carry it quietly rise above those who outsource decisions to chance, hope, or opinion. The market rewards authority, not effort. It rewards certainty, not intention. Those who master these principles do not need motivation. They operate from structure. And structure once built does not negotiate, stand above, decide calmly, let others follow. That is the final truth.